You won't believe what happened when the HOA president, the classic Karen type, decided to get way too involved with my property. Imagine waking up one morning to find out she actually invited her realtor to tour my cabin without my permission. At first, I thought it was just a misunderstanding, maybe some weird mix-up. But no, this was deliberate. The nerve of someone trying to sneak around my own home like it's some open house for sale. If you've ever dealt with an overbearing HOA, you know exactly how frustrating it can get. But this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. So, I did. Something bold, something I never thought I'd have to. I welded the gates shut. Yeah, you heard that right. I locked down my own property in a way that sent a clear message. No unauthorized tours, no sneaky visits. And if that wasn't enough, I put up my own sign, right there for everyone to see, making it clear who's really in charge of this place. It wasn't just about protecting my privacy anymore. It was about standing up to someone who thought she could bully her way through. The whole neighborhood was buzzing. Some people thought I went too far. Others said it was about time someone stood up to the HOA president's antics. But what happens next? How did she react when she saw the gate welded shut and my sign staring back at her? And most importantly, what's the fallout from this showdown? There's more to this story than just a locked gate. There's tension, conflict, and a battle over control that's far from over. Stick around because you won't want to miss what happens next. This isn't just about a cabin or a gate. It's about standing your ground when someone tries to push you around. The story doesn't start with the gate or the sign. It goes back months. Long before the welding torch came out. It's from the very beginning, the HOA president had it out for me. It started small, with passive-aggressive notes slipped under my door about my landscaping or how I parked my truck. At first, I tried to keep things civil, thinking maybe she was just doing her job, enforcing the rules. But it quickly became clear this was personal. Every little thing I did, no matter how minor, was suddenly a problem. I've always loved my cabin. It's my escape, my peace away from the chaos of daily life. So when someone starts meddling, trying to control how I live there, it hits hard. The cabin isn't just a property to me, it's part of who I am. And watching the HOA president use her position to try and micromanage my life felt like an invasion. That's when I started pushing back. But pushing back in this neighborhood isn't easy. The HOA has a tight grip on everything: rules, inspections, and even who can visit your property. So when she invited her realtor friend over to tour my cabin without telling me, it wasn't just Rudy, it was a power move. It felt like she was trying to set the stage for something bigger, maybe to force me out or sell my place without my say-so. That's when I realized this wasn't going to be a quiet disagreement. This was a battle over control, respect, and boundaries. So welding the gate shut was more than just locking up. It was a statement. But I knew that wasn't the end. I could already feel the tension rising in the neighborhood, whispers spreading and eyes watching. What would she do next? Call the cops? Try to force the gate open? Or maybe even escalate things in a way I hadn't expected? The next move was hers. And I was ready for whatever came my way. After welding the gate shut and putting up my own sign, the ripple effect started almost immediately. Word got around the neighborhood faster than I expected. Some neighbors quietly reached out, sharing stories about their own run-ins with the HOA president's mall battles over paint colors, fence heights, even flower beds. It was like peeling back a layer to reveal a pattern of control that stretched far beyond just my cabin. Suddenly, I wasn't alone in this fight. But that didn't make it any less tense. The HOA president, of course, wasn't going to let things rest. I heard she was already talking to lawyers and sending out official notices, accusing me of violating community rules by blocking access. But here's the thing: the gate is my property, my boundary, and no rule should let someone walk In Uninvited, still, she framed it like I was the bad guy, stirring up drama and trying to rally the other homeowners to her side. It felt like a power play, not just about the gate, but about who calls the shots in this neighborhood. Meanwhile, the realtor she brought over started asking around, pretending to be interested in checking out the area. I caught wind of her conversations with neighbors, trying to fish for dirt or leverage. It was clear they were planning something, maybe to list my cabin or pressure me to sell. That added another layer of stress. This wasn't just about a gate anymore. It was about the future of my home and whether I'd be forced out by a slow, relentless squeeze. On the other side, some neighbors began to quietly support me. They shared concerns about the HOA president's aggressive tactics, but were wary of openly taking sides. Fear of retaliation ran deep, and the community was split between those who wanted peace and those who wanted to see me pushed out. The tension in the air grew heavier, and every interaction felt like walking a tightrope. Every day brought new challenges letters, phone calls, and moments where I had to decide how far I was willing to push back. But one thing was clear: this battle was far from over, and the next move could change everything. Days turned into weeks, and the tension only grew thicker. The HOA president's calls became more frequent, and I started receiving official letters, threatening fines and legal action if I didn't remove the welded gate and take down my sign. But I wasn't backing down, not after everything I'd been through. The gate wasn't just metal and bolts. It was my stand against an unfair system, trying to push me out. Late one evening, I noticed unfamiliar cars parked near the entrance to my cabin's driveway. The realtor was back, this time with a few others, clearly surveying the place, whispering among themselves. It felt like a raid, but without the warning. My heart raced as I watched from a distance, knowing any moment could bring a confrontation I wasn't sure I was ready for. The neighborhood was watching too, some silently rooting for me, others quietly hoping the HOA president would win this fight. Rumors started swirling that the HOA board might take drastic steps, maybe even force entry or revoke my property rights. The community meetings were growing heated, with people choosing sides, some voicing support, others backing the president's strict stance. I could feel the walls closing in. The conflict wasn't just about my cabin anymore. It was about control, freedom, and standing up to an authority that felt more like a bully than a neighbor. One night, as I double-checked the gate's welds, my phone buzzed with an urgent message. The HOA president was coming by with a locksmith and possibly law enforcement. I had no idea what their plan was, but it was clear the peaceful days were over. I stared at the welded gate, the sign I'd put up, and the quiet woods beyond, wondering how far this battle would go and if I was ready for what was about to come next. The moment was close, the tension unbearable, and the next steps could change everything. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more intense, a new twist threw everything into chaos. On the very day the HOA president arrived with the locksmith, and, surprisingly, a couple of uniformed officers, I received a call from an unexpected source, a longtime neighbor who had kept quiet until now. She told me there was something I needed to know about the HOA president's past, something that could change everything about this fight. Apparently, the president wasn't just pushing boundaries in our neighborhood. There were rumors of shady dealings and questionable motives behind her strict control over the community. I didn't have time to process the shock before the group arrived at my gate. The officers weren't there to force entry as I feared, but to serve a legal notice, one that caught me completely off guard. The HOA president was now claiming that the property line wasn't exactly where I thought it was, according to her. The gate I welded shut was actually blocking a shared access road, giving her and the other homeowners legal grounds to demand immediate removal. If true, this could mean I was unknowingly standing in the way of more than just her realtors. Curiosity could threaten my entire claim to the land. Suddenly, the battle wasn't just about privacy or control. It became a fight over property rights, with legal and financial risks piling up fast. My cabin, the place I'd fought so hard to protect, was now at the center of a storm that threatened to tear everything apart. I felt the pressure mounting not just from the HOA president and her supporters, but from the looming possibility of losing what I'd built. As I locked eyes with the officers and the HOA president standing by the gate, I realized the tension in the air was so thick I could almost cut it with a knife. Standing there by the welded gate, facing the HOA president, the locksmith, and the officers, I felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Just as they were about to demand I cut the gate open, I calmly reached into my pocket and pulled out the property survey I had hired a professional to complete weeks earlier, before the legal notices even started. The survey clearly showed the gate was on my land, and the so-called shared access road was nowhere near the boundary. The HOA president's confident smirk faded as I handed the survey to the officers and the locksmith. They studied it quietly, then looked back at her, their expressions unreadable. The officers nodded and said they couldn't force entry or demand removal based on inaccurate claims. I felt a surge of relief, but I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The president glared, her grip tightening on the legal notices. But the tide had shifted. That's when the unexpected happened. A neighbor I barely knew stepped forward from the crowd gathered behind the HOA president. She pulled out her phone and started recording, revealing a hidden history of the president's attempts to manipulate the HOA board, intimidate homeowners, and even falsify documents to expand her control. The crowd gasped. The president's carefully built facade was crumbling right before their eyes. Suddenly, the real battle was exposed, to fight not just for my cabin, but for the entire neighborhood's freedom from a corrupt HOA leader. The officers promised to look into the new evidence, and the president's power began to unravel. I knew I had won a major victory, but the community was still divided, and healing wouldn't be easy. As the crowd dispersed and the sun began to set, I looked at my welded gate and sign, symbols of standing up for what's right. But just as I was about to breathe easy, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "This isn't over. You just made a powerful enemy." The fight had reached a new, darker level, and now I was ready for whatever came next.